And this is what it looks like when it's all done. And yeah, that feels pretty good. Carries pretty well. Hello, welcome to WayPoint Survival. Today, I want to show you how to make a hobo backpack from a chair. Stay tuned. All right, so the first thing that you're going to have to get a hold of is one of these old ladder back chairs. And of course you can see why it's called that, because it has a ladder back. Now there are different kinds. They've been around for a really long time. This one is pretty beat up. The seat's no longer attached to it. It's got some paint flecks and some odds and ends of things on there. It's not in great condition. You can get these really cheaply. As a matter of fact, back in the day, and probably even now on garbage days, people will give these to you for free. So again, it fits right in with what we would do as a hobo for hobo culture. So what we're looking at here is, once we remove this seat that wasn't fastened down, we've got some knobs here on the front, and I'd like to kind of match those in the back, because here's what we can do. Even though we're taking the back off, if I leave some sticking up here, I can put that seat back on there, and then it can become a seat at camp or whatever. So it's still useful because we still have the bottom frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up. I've got my folding ruler here. So we're going to measure approximately where that is. And you can do this or you can just guess. But right up above this bar, we've got about 1.5 inches. So we can do that right here. Just come up about 1.5 inches and mark it on both sides. And then we're just going to use a small handsaw. Now here's a trick for you. If your handsaw is sharp but it doesn't want to cut good, maybe it's got a little bit of rust on it, you can take and rub some candle wax on there, and that will help it to cut a little more smoothly. Now it's a good idea when you go to cut this that you put it on something where you can reach it easily and where you can brace yourself so that you're not working against yourself as you're cutting. Of course, when you do this, do your best to get this cut as straight as possible. All right, there we go. Next, you want to take your pocket blade and you want to trim off all of this around the outside where it's got a little bit of extra from the cut. Kind of chamfer that, just put a little bevel on it all the way around. So literally all we're doing is we're doing just this, just around the outside edges. All right, so there you can see, got both of them done. Next, take a piece of sandpaper and then just work around that and try to get that as smooth as you can. You could use a piece of sandstone or a rock, so it doesn't actually have to be sandpaper. It just works a little quicker, a little easier, and gives you a little better of a finish here. And remember that a lot of hobos were working men, and they did have access to sandpaper and tools and things like that. So they weren't always just indigent, and of course not to be confused with the modern day homeless or houseless people. All right, I'll finish this and get back with you. All right, so here's what we have. It's nicely sanded off and smooth on both sides, but we've got a little bit of play here. If you can see that or not, but these are not fastened in very well. And so we don't want those to come out. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some screws into an angle here to tighten this up right inside this. All right, so we're on the back side, so the curve is up. And I'm just going to do one for demonstration, then I'll do the other ones off camera. But we're just taking a flathead screw, and we're using flathead screws because that would be correct to the period. And we're just starting right in here. And this can be a little difficult to get started, but once it gets going, it's not quite so bad. All right, so we're going to switch gears here. Couldn't get it started. We've got a drill here, and we're going to start a pilot hole. And that's going to help us out a lot in getting this started here. Now I think we're going good with the screw. All right, once we get that nice and tight, we're going to go ahead and do that to all the other ones. We'll get back with you. All right, so you can see here we have a screw in each one of these slats. And now the wobble's pretty much all gone out of it, and that's what we're looking for. All right, so this is going to be our backpack frame, and notice that we have a thick end and then a tapered end. This is what was down here by the chair that we cut off. And we're going to use the thick end because that's going to be the one that goes on the ground. If we use the thin end, that taper, it might make it sink down into the mud. So we're going to use the thickest end. It's going to give us the largest purchase. But we need to fashion some sort of a cap to go over top of this, and not only to protect the wood, but also so that it won't soak up water so much when we set it down in a place that's damp. To do that, we're going to use a piece of an old tin can. We have some snips here. You want to check very carefully, make sure there aren't any seams, or if there are seams, that you don't cut it on a seam. And this stuff is really easy to cut, especially with a decent pair of snips. You have good leverage. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut all the way around. And you can cut the bottom off if you wish with a can opener if you have one, or you can just do it like this. And any old pair of snips, can will work. Once you get around that corner, then we're just going to follow this line on around. And do be careful when you do this. You may want to wear gloves. I'm used to working with this stuff, but I even cut myself once in a while. But just take your time and go carefully. And now you will want to flatten this out. All we're going to do is take a hammer and just very gently, and it's kind of noisy, so I apologize for that, but we're just flattening this out. All right, once you're done with that, we have a flat piece of metal that we can work with. Of course, you could use a piece of tin from an old tin roof. Anything will work. This is just kind of handy and convenient. All right, the next thing we need to do is we need to look at this leg of this chair and figure out about how big we want it, kind of figure out the size. And so I'm going to go with something about like that. And again, this is just a guess based on the size. I want to overlap it a little bit. And then I'm going to try to cut this as straight as I can. It's not absolutely imperative that it be perfectly straight. And then I'm going to cut the other one the same size. Now we have two pieces, and these have turned out pretty close. So they're about the same size, as you can see. Next, you want to take your piece of metal and fold it down over top. And then using the hammer, you want to tap around so you can see where the circle is. You can see where that's where the footprint of this thing is. So that's what we want. Next, I'm going to start about from the middle, and I'm going to cut to here and cut to here. I'm going to do that on both sides. Like that. And then I'm going to cut these out. So these little triangle pieces I've made here. When you get done, you're going to have something that looks like that. Okay? And then it's a simple matter to do the same thing here. So what you end up with ultimately is something like this. Looks like a four-pointed star. Before we go any farther, I want to take a moment to remind you to sign up at WayPointSurvival.com for the WayPoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter, full of great ideas and information that you're going to want to read, coming to your inbox at least once a week, if not more often. You're really going to like it. Make sure and sign up for it. Thanks a lot. Now you take that star and you place it over top like this, making sure that it's covering everything, and then you hammer it down, or just push it down if you wish with your fingers. Just be careful, like I said, that you don't cut yourself. There's going to be some sharp edges on here. Next, we take some very small tacks. You can see that. It's just a little small metal tack. And we nail these tabs down to the leg. All right, once we get that started good, we'll put it down on something a little more solid. Gives us something else to hammer on so we can fasten that in place. Flip it over, making sure that this is nice and tight and where we want it. And then same thing. All right, so we've got the front and back. Now we do the sides. But before we do the sides, you can go ahead and take your hammer and start just smashing this down all the way around, getting all those rough edges smoothed down, all the corners, making sure that's nicely rounded and put down there as it should be. All right, I'll do the rest of these, get back with you and show you what it looks like when it's all done. All right, so you can see what we have here and see where we've hammered it all the way around. And then you just take the hammer and just keep smoothing it in both sides. So it's just nailed on 4 little tacks all the way around. And that is going to give us a nice little bottom for it to sit on when we put it down and set the pack down. All right, so we've got that figured out as our frame. Now for the straps, there's different things you could do for the straps, but what I do when I go to thrift stores, I look for belts. I try to find belts that have, I try to find belts that have good buckles that I can use, and different designs. Get them as long as you can, but you want to make sure that they are solid leather. That's very important. And for these are all brown, and I have some black ones as well. Give you a bit of a close-up here. See what they look like. But they're just solid leather belts. So they're not stitched or sewn, it's just a solid piece of leather, and that's what you're looking for. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select my 2 longest belts. Now they're not exactly the same size, but it is really close. Okay, these are pretty close to the same size, and that's going to work perfectly. If I was really concerned about it, and I may do that, I could just go ahead and cut that end off to match so that they're exactly the same length. But again, that's up to you. That's just a sight thing. It doesn't really affect the belt at all. Next, you want to measure from the end of the belt here about 6 inches. So from the end of the leather here to here, about 6 inches. And then we're going to use the snips, or you can use leather cutting scissors if you wish. This will work though. It's made to cut metal, so it certainly will cut leather. All right, so there we go. So we got a piece that looks like that, and then the rest of the belt, and we do that to both of them. Now if you want, you can cut and round these off just to make them look a little fancier, and I do that to the belts as well. I'm going to do that and I'll get back with you, but you don't have to do this step. That's just if you want to. All right, so here are the 2 ends. You can see I went ahead and rounded them off, and then I also punched the hole with a leather punch. You can do this with a drill or anything if you want. Just put a little hole in each one of those. And then the other end, where I cut them off over flat, I rounded those off too and put 2 holes in there. And then I did go ahead and match the ends. Now it's important that you keep these belts on the same side. So they're 2 different belts. They are brown, sort of close in color, but one is a little thicker than the other. So not super thick, but just a little bit. And then also notice that I tried to get them the same width. Most belts are in that same range anyway, but if you're going to match them, and I've got several of these that I've bought over the years, so try to match them in color as well as size and length. That just makes your project a little easier. Now on the bottom part, we need to attach the buckle, and we're going to put it on the side right here, just like this. So we're going to drill a hole and make a mark with the pencil, first of all, about where we want it. And you definitely want to keep it close to this slat. You don't want it up too far. So kind of right in here, and we're just going to make a little mark like that with the pencil, and we're going to drill our hole out. I'll do that and get back with you. Next, we're going to use a screw and one of these grommets. And we're going to go down through here down through the leather and then into the hole on the side that we just drilled. All right, so when you get this on here, it will be at about a 45-degree angle, okay? So it's going to be angled up, as you can see, like that. We'll do the same thing to the other side. Make sure that you measure to get the hole in the same spot over here. All right, so we've got the bottom done. You can see what that looks like. The strap on each side with the buckle. And the curve is this way, because this is what's going to go against your back. So you can see that it is slightly curved. Some are more than others, but you want the curve to fit your back. You don't want the rounded part against your back. That's going to be quite uncomfortable. So this is what that looks like. Okay, so you can see we have the bottom here with both our buckles, and then we're going to come this way and we're going to get our straps right here. I'm going to match them up, make sure we get the right side. All right, so we get the right one to the right one. Now, these need to loop underneath of your top support, okay? That's so that it rests on the leather and not just on the screws that you'll be putting in. All right, so what we're doing is we're taking this, and this is going to loop underneath. So it comes underneath this and this way, so that when the strap comes over the top, you've got all of that wrapped around for carrying weight. Otherwise, all you have is the weight just resting on these screws here, and that would tear out pretty easily. Now, ideally, on a lot of backpacks, you want your shoulder straps to be angled, but the way this is made, we're just going to put these straight up and down. So we're just going to come in like this and like that. Find a good spot. We've got some nice humps here, and I'm just going to mark it with the pencil. That's where we're going to drill our holes. Come down here to the other one. Go ahead and run it through one of the holes so it stays put. Bring it up here and do the same thing. We wrap it around like that. Get that figured out about where we want it. Right about where our hump here is. You can see there's a center piece right there where it's cut out. All right, there we go. All right, now there's a couple ways we can fasten these on here. We could come around this way and put a little bolt in there. We could use a screw. The problem with bolts and screws is as you carry and backpack this, they tend to wiggle out and get loose. So what we're going to do, we're going to use some nails and these grommets here. I'm going to nail that through there, and then we're going to bend it over or clinch it on the back side. You don't want to make your holes too big. They need to be just right to fit your nails. And then what I mean by clinching is we come over to this side and we bend them over. And you want to try to make sure that you embed these. If you want to do this real well, you can put it on an anvil or something like that. Okay, so you can see what we have here. These are nailed on. We have them clinched over here in the back. Now, these come around and over like that. And that way, this wraps around that. So as that wraps around, that's going to give good support. It's much better than if it were just tacked to the face. So you could do it like this, but you could see that's going to just want to pull out by pressure on your shoulders. So it's important that it wraps around like this. Now we pull up our buckles on the side and put it in the first couple just to see how it's going to fit. There we go. Yeah. Okay, you can see we're starting to get a bit of a pack look here. All right, let's see what we have here. This way, and then here. Oh yeah, that actually is not too bad. It's pretty good, but there's more. We're not done yet, so this could be adjusted. I could wear this with a jacket. plenty of length, and it doesn't feel too bad. It's about the right width for my shoulders. So definitely like the way this looks. And all right, let's go to the next step. Okay, so down here at the bottom where our buckles are, we need to put something across here so that it rides across the back better. And for that, of course, I have another belt. So we're going to fasten it across here just like this. And then if we have enough extra, we'll put another piece up here like this. So here and here. And we want these to wrap around the sides and screw in. I'll do that and get back with you. And this is what it looks like. You can see I put the cross straps on here, one at the bottom, and then at the top it already had some holes in it for the belt to fasten. So I just went all the way across, help it to breathe a little better, and made it look a little more uniform. I think that's pretty neat. Now, let's put a pack on it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're just going to start with a simple just a square, right over left, left over right, and then we'll do a third, just a half hitch to get that started, and pull that nice and tight. And then we're going to come across this way, and we're going to come to this top piece right here. I'm going to go around this and make that nice and tight and pull that down like that. Okay. And you try to do this with one piece of rope if you can, and then we'll cut it off, and that way we don't mess up our rope length. Okay, you can come down here and go around the base again and pull that tight. Get that a couple like that. And then we'll take this and come straight up to the top and go around like this, lash that down, and then bring all this extra rope down here and come down here and lash it at the bottom like this. Pull that nice and tight around this way, and then go back once more across the other direction like that over here to this other pin right here. All right, we'll go around here like this, come around one more, and then we'll come straight down here, get all this rope, this was a new coil, down here to where we have this little tag end right here. And then we're going to take the knife, we're going to cut off a decent amount. There we go. Set that aside. And now we could just come around and we just tie these off with a very simple couple of half hitches or a square knot. Doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be fancy. That should hold right there. All right, so here's what it looks like. It's all put together. I think it looks pretty nice. Let's try it on. So, across this way. And yeah, that feels pretty good. Carries pretty well. And I think that does what it's supposed to do. This is James Bender for WayPoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also make sure and check out the links in the description box below, just under the More button. While you're down there, you'll also find the link for our WayPoint Survival digital class. This is where you can sign up to train in the comfort and convenience of your own backyard, the top 20 skills that we consider to be the most important from our Phase 1 Survival and Bushcraft class. You'll also find the link where you can sign up for the WayPoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter. Absolutely full of great ideas that you're going to want to print out and keep, and it's totally free for you. You'll also find the link where you can sign up for WayPoint Survival in-person classes here at our beautiful training facility in Southern Ohio. And those classes are ongoing, so make sure you check that out and the required gear list. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.